Welcome back to Dan91's garage. This week we're going to fit a boost gauge to the Toyota Starlet. So last week we've already taken out the clocks so we can change it for a set from a Starlet SR that had a rev counter in it. So this is the ideal opportunity to start running hoses and pipes and cables behind the dash, being as it's already taken apart. No point messing about. See you guys in a sec. So now we're on the boost gauge. So it's a 30 psi from Turbosmart. 52mm outer shell, as they all are, and I got myself probably the cheapest pod thingy you can buy, obviously with the depth of this. So unfortunately it doesn't actually fit in to the bottom because the two screw threads to mount it hold it off. Now also the reference nipple there for the boost hose, that's yeah, that's kind of covered up as well, so we're gonna have to sort of cut the back out of this just to get the reference hose on it. And if we line it up side by side, we can see that these aren't actually long enough to come through the back of the case and get nuts on anyway. So I think I'm just going to cut the actual screw threads off because they're no use at all. So I'll chop them down so it fits in and then scoop the back out so it looks sort of the least stupid. The other alternative is to leave these alone and cut the back of it out, but then you'll be able to see sort of the back of this hanging out the back. So yeah, I'll get on with that. I've figured out where I'm going to put it on the dash. So we've got the boost gauge, little hood. These wires are obviously for illuminating it at night, or you can hook it up to a switch 12 instead, that basically so it's illuminated all the time. I've already changed the grommet in the back because the one that came with it sucked and kept falling out, so I put in a decent grommet that doesn't actually fall out anymore. And I heat shrunk those two bits of wire together so it's just sort of messing me about less and is less likely to get tangled up. This was a nightmare. Hate this PVC fish tank tubing bull. You obviously got your T-piece that we're going to stick on a vac line, and this one has a restrictor in it. It's like a boost pill or whatever it is to reduce the amount of pressure that goes to the gauge, or to sort of stop any sort of fluctuations and stuff at idle, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's a nightmare. I don't like it, and I had to basically dip this in boiling water till it got hot enough, and then when the hose was slightly softer I basically jammed it on as far as it would go. It went up to like the first barb, then I had to basically grab the outside of it with a set of bloody pliers just to wiggle the bloody thing on as far as it would go. So yeah, that's awful. I'll probably switch it to silicone if it f***s me about. So anyway, we need to stick it on the car. So if we have a look down here, this is where everyone goes through. So this little grommet here, obviously this is where the speedo drive goes in, but there's this little sort of rubber nipply thing here next to it. I mean, quite easily nip the end off of that, and it's just about the right size for a silicone or PVC boost hose to go through. So I'm going to have the vacuum block on top of the manifold, and then we're going to run a hose down the back where we tee off that, so we can then send the one tee through the firewall, and the other side of the tee is then going to go right across the engine bay and in, and then go on to the Det 3 in the glove box. And then we need to look at the wiring. So we obviously need the black to go to ground, that's quite easy to find, and the red to go to illuminated circuit. So thankfully I managed to get hold of a copy of the Toyota electrical manual that they use in the workshops back in the day. Okay, so there we are, Schlussleuchten and Beleuchtung. So this shows all of the illumination circuits. So there's illumination stuff, hazard switches illuminated, also automatic transmission sort of panel, yada yada yada, radio and player, that's usually where you go to. So that's the green wire going in to the back of the radio, and then the brown coming out is the earth. Also cigarette lighter, there's a little bulb that illuminates in this ring, and that's the green going in on pin 2 and out on 3 with a white wire with a black stripe. We're right near the fog light switch, so the fog light switch has a bulb in it that illuminates when you turn the headlights on, so you can find your switches because it's dark apparently. So the green wire for the rear fog light switch is on pin 2, and a white with a black stripe on pin 8 of the plug comes out to this junction box and then down to the right hand kick panel. So if we go over the car we can go and find all of that stuff. And we've got the fog light here obviously, so it illuminates the light in there, and obviously the good thing is this is the wiring to it under here. But yeah, that's easy to get to, so that's cool. So we can, what I think I'll do is the earth goes down to the right hand kick panel. So down here, this bolt here, that has a whole bunch of earths going to it. What I'll probably do is put an earth separate on a separate wire and just undo that, and then put like a new ring terminal in there, and we'll go for that. And then up here we'll find the appropriate wire in this loom, and then we'll just tap into that basically. So I've got some open barrel splices that I use to make the piggyback wiring loom, so they're pretty cool. So if we reach up in here, and hopefully on the back, yeah, there's a little plug thing. I squeeze the tab in to the right, plug comes out the back. So that's our set of wires, and we have here positions 2 and 8. I've already checked. 2 and 8 are on this side, top one and bottom one, as you're looking at the open end. And if you look at the back, that's our green wire, and just next to it is white black. So that's what it goes out on to go back down and join a connector before it goes down to here. So that's the plug. I've now put the red wire from the gauge into the green at the top, which is the illumination power wire, and then we've got the white with a black stripe at the bottom, and that's got the earth or black wire into it. So if we turn the headlights on, that now lights up. And if you look at the rest of the car, hopefully you can see down there on the left, cigarette lighter and stuff going on. We're going to stick the gauge up here in this top corner, and then feed it down the side here because there's a nice gap. So we go down there, and this comes to this wire, and so I'm going to need to extend these wires anyway. I don't think they're actually going to reach. Certainly the earth one isn't going to reach down to the floor anyway. Stupid tiny wires, so I've tripled that up just to give it a bit more bulk to fill out the open barrel splice. So we've got that, and we've got our other wire. Might actually go like that and give it a bit of strain relief. It's easier to crimp as well, so if I go with the two together, and then we can fold it back down like you would sort of another crimp. So we'll go with that. We'll put those sets in there, mash down on it, and hope we get it right. There we go. All your effort pops out. And they didn't have any red. I mean, why would they have black and red wire? Why not just blue? So there we go. We'll make this the same length, even though we don't need half of it. So we'll just go with something that long, I guess. There we go. So the earth wire crimped up okay. Obviously it looks a bit backwards, but the whole idea is obviously using these sorts of open barrel splices, there isn't really much strain relief. So what you quite often see people do is they put the pair in together, then heat shrink this way, then fold it back over itself that way, and then maybe heat shrink again over the top. So when it pulls, it sort of pulls on the heat shrink rather than pulling the wire out of the actual splice itself. That's that one. We'll carry on with the red one, and then we'll chuck it in the car. This PVC stuff is crap. Like I say, the end of it, once you heat it up, it sort of formed itself to the T-piece, and I couldn't get a sort of like any sort of clamp on it to hold it down, so that's just going to get off in the bin. It's full of kinks anyway. I mean, the whole thing's just a nightmare. So I'm just going to go with some silicone hose. It's not a particularly long run anyway, So there we are, it's on the T-piece now. And I've got a little hose clip on it. I don't really like this type, but when it gets down to things this small, you can't really get anything like a screw type to go on it. So there we go, that's clipped on there. I'm going to go shove this through the firewall, I guess. So there we have it. T-piece goes down through the grommet in the firewall, obviously because that's the one with the pill restrictor in it. And then we go across here with another piece of hose over for the Det 3 as well. So if we just pop inside the car quickly. We're in there now. Got the vacuum hose going up through there, wires popping down the side, down into this part of it, avoiding all the sharp brackets and stuff. Did cut my hand quite badly getting the vacuum tube through from by the pedal box. That pedal box is viciously sharp, those edges. So yeah, took a big chunk out of my hand there, which wasn't nice. We're now down here. So the earth is attached to this. This is M6, this bolt, and I had to use a blue connector. Then we go up through round the back of that. We'll tape it onto some of this stuff. It's all only in there sort of temporary at the minute. Then obviously we're taped up to here, and then the blue, which should be the positive, comes across to here. And obviously this is the green wire. What I did was, because it was quite easy to access the socket and I could get on it with a set of de-pinning tools, that made it easier to strip the 10mm section off, crimp it on with one of them open barrel splices and crimp the blue positive wire into it. Then obviously with this taken out, I could then put some heat shrink over it and heat shrink it that way. Now unfortunately the whole thing is kind of set in there, but I can undo this end, and if I want to I can cut it here and put a set of spade connectors on so it can unplug and I can take the gauge out again. But like I say, splicing into anything like this basically makes that part of the loom now. So we'll shove him back in, which I don't think I can do one-handed. So we'll just give it a quick test now. It's all wired up and back together. So fog light's still illuminated, so that's cool. Well, we're all back together now. So gauge is on, put 3 small self tappers that came with it through the dash. Not bothered, and it is clear on the other side, but with the clocks out and everything, you can just have a little feel around to make sure. The last thing you want to do is put some screws through any of the wiring loom. So that's all attached now. So I wrapped the vacuum hose and the illumination wires in some spiral plastic wrap just to protect it from chafing and kinking or anything. And that goes through a nice hole in the A-pillar cover. And if we follow it down here, try and get some light up in there. So we're coming down from there, from the A-pillar cover. Blue wire goes across, and that was obviously spliced in for our illuminated 12-volt positive from the fog light switch. And then we follow the black earth wire down, and that goes down to the little screw point on the chassis behind the little kick pad here. So there we go, we're all back together on that. So all we've got to do now is plumb it in the engine bay. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, guys and girls. I truly appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care of yourselves.